Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. And today we'll learn about the where the people, Israelites and the Levites, are supposed to be, and also what our intention is supposed to be during the receiving of the blessing of the priests. So in Rosh Hashanah, there's a very um, sad description of people who are not in the synagogue. It seems like some of them are not able to be there for different reasons, but some of them have chose not to. So we'll concentrate on those who unfortunately couldn't be there, not deliberately avoiding being in synagogue. So these are two things that can be heard, and that's how you fulfill the mitzvah, which is the blowing of the shofar and hearing the Megillah. One is rabbinical and one is biblical, of course. So the Tosefta adds this scenario: a shepherd that is watering his flock behind the synagogue. So obviously he can't come into the synagogue with his sheep, but I'm always wondering, you have nothing better to do on Rosh Hashanah morning. And so to a sick person who was brought behind the synagogue. So somebody is sick and may be contagious. Obviously, it's better to leave outside of the synagogue instead of bringing them in. And so they obviously hired somebody, or somebody from the family brought their bed close to the synagogue so they can hear shofar. That way, nobody has to go into a closed space with somebody who's that ill to blow shofar for them. So a sick person was brought behind the synagogue, or one whose house is adjacent to the synagogue, and there's many cases like that, and heard the sound of the shofar or the sound of the Megillah being read. If he directed his heart, he fulfilled it. So you have to have the Kavanah. And if not, he did not fulfill it. Even though this one heard and that one heard, meaning that it's all the same. You both heard the whole Megillah, or you both heard the shofar blowing. Since this one directed their heart and that one did not direct their heart, the one who directed their heart fulfilled, and the one who did not direct their heart did not fulfill. For everything follows after the direction of the heart, as it is said in Psalms, prepare your hearts and incline your ears. And it says in Proverbs, give me your heart, my son, and let your eyes observe my ways. So these are two things that you only need ears for, and that's why, for example, a cheresh, somebody who's deaf and mute, is exempt from this. But the question I always had when reading this is, Birkat Kohanim is also something that you just hear the voice. So why does it have to be that you are in the synagogue during the time? And so that will be the discussion today in terms of what we are trying to understand. So first we'll talk about the Kavanah, the intention, and then we'll talk about the physical way to be it. So during Birkat Kohanim, each and every Jew must stand opposite the Kohanim and have Kavanah to accept the blessing. He should not look at the Kohanim or at anything else so as not to distract his thoughts from the bracha. So there's two different things here. One is not to look at the Kohanim, and that's probably related to the fact that the Shekhinah is between their hands, as it says in Sota 38b, or anything else, of course, because that's something that is generally during the prayer, but at this point we're supposed to concentrate, and so being directly in front of them, even if your eyes are closed, because that helps you with Kavanah, then that is what we're supposed to do. And so this is how they explain. The the sages established that a Kohen who has an abnormality on his body that would likely cause people to stare at him and divert their thoughts from the bracha may not ascend to bless the people. So they specifically talked about the hands and the face. So if you have like freckles, or if you have distorted fingers or something like that, or maybe you're missing a finger, then they should not go up to bless. But he's going to explain why in modern time we don't have this strict rule anymore. Therefore, before the Kohanim became accustomed to covering their faces and hands with their talitot, the prayer shawl, any Kohen who had a deformity on his face or hands, such as unusual facial freckles or crooked fingers, would not ascend the Duchan to bless the nation. However, today, when all Kohanim are accustomed to covering their face with the talit, a defect on one's face or hands does not prevent a Kohen from reciting the blessing. And also, some people have the custom for themselves to cover themselves with the talit. That's what Rabbi Hertzfeld and his son, every time that they have Birkat Kohanim, that's what I see on Zoom. Nevertheless, even today, if the Kohen has a noticeable deformity on his leg, like if he's limping or something like that, he should not ascend the Duchan to bless the people, for it might distract the minds of the listeners. However, again, leniency, if he is a permanent resident of the community, so meaning he comes there every day and everybody's used to him, such that his defect no longer makes people curious, he may ascend to bless the nation, for it most likely will not distract the listeners. So that's basically the rule today. But again, we have to concentrate, like we talked about yesterday, to receive the blessing. Similarly, a Kohen who has a strange accent, such as one who confuses the pronunciation of the letters Aleph and Ayin, may not bless the nation, since such a thing will distract the thoughts of the listeners from the blessing. And again, a leniency. However, a person who speaks in the accepted accent, even if he does not emphasize the Ayin and the Chet properly because they're Ashkenazi, most likely, does not distract the listener's thought. Likewise, all the known accents, Ashkenazi, Yemenite, etc., do not divert attention from the bracha because they are known and familiar. So I'll just say that, practically speaking, if you are a Ashkenazi in a Yemenite synagogue, if you try to imitate their accent and pronounce the Chet and the Ayin properly, it will be very distracting because everybody will know that there's somebody here who isn't. So my suggestion, from what I heard from other people, is to go up to say Birkat Kohanim, but just not say it loud. That way, nobody hears you, but you're still giving the blessing like every other Kohen. Last but not least, about this, my rabbi in 10th grade, when I was learning with him the laws of Birkat Kohanim, he said that if I speak in the Ashkenazi accent in the day-to-day when I speak Hebrew, for example, the saf instead of the taf, or the tzeire, like beitza as opposed to beitza, then I should definitely do that for the accent for Birkat Kohanim. But if I speak Hebrew as one and the special accent in Birkat Kohanim, again, that is not appropriate because you should say it in the way that you're accustomed to talking, and that way nobody is confused and you say it however you say it. Again, you can lower your voice if you are an unfamiliar accent shul, and I think when I was in a Bukhari shul, no, sorry, there was already in Netanya, so we didn't do Birkat Kohanim. Anyway, only someone who greatly confuses or garbles the pronunciation more than is acceptable or stutters excessively may not bless the people. And that's the halacha on the Shulchan Aruch and the Mishnah Berurah. In summary, the Chachamim enacted that any Kohen possessing something that might distract the people from their Kavanah may not ascend the platform to bless. From these laws, we understand how important it is that the listeners concentrate during Birkat Kohanim. And so we talked before about people who are behind the synagogue, in the cases of Shofar and Megillah. So now he's going to talk about where we actually have to be. So when the Kohanim recite the blessing, the people being blessed must position themselves in front of them, as it is written in Numbers. This is how you must bless the Israelites. Say to them. Chazal interpret this to mean that Birkat Kohanim must be performed in the same way that people talk to their friends, by standing face to face and speaking aloud, so that all those receiving the blessing can hear them. So, of course, if somebody was with their back to you, it would be very impolite if you're trying to talk to them. And so that's why they said about the facing. But again, if they were afraid about this Shekhinah from the fingers or through the hands, of course, we can cover our faces with a talit or just close our eyes. Although the Kohanim reciting the blessing must stand in principle, those being blessed may sit. Nonetheless, today, the custom is that everyone stands for Birkat Kohanim. If you can, still an ill or weak person who has difficulty standing is permitted to sit during the blessing. Anyone standing behind the Kohanim is not included in the bracha, although one who is standing directly beside them can be included as long as he turns his face towards the Kohanim. And also, the Kohanim themselves, if you know, they swerve, like like this, left and right. So they're including everybody, but they're not including people that are behind them. So people sitting in the front, in the first rows of the synagogue, must measure their place in relation to the Kohanim. If they're in front of them or even directly to the side of them, they are permitted to remain in their place and turn their face towards the Kohanim. However, if their place is slightly behind the Kohanim, they must move to a different position for the recital of the blessing. And since it doesn't take that long, and people that do it every day already have, the place that they're standing in the aisle or something like that, no problem. So anyone standing in front of the Kohanim is included in the bracha, even if there are tall people standing before him. That's not considered separating. And last but not least, those who do not come to synagogue due to circumstances beyond their control are still included in the bracha. For instance, someone who has to leave for work, or women and children who do not come to synagogue are all included in the bracha, which is intended to include all of Israel. Only those who are able to go and receive the blessing but neglect to do so are not included in the bracha. So again, Sota 38b talks about what happens if a shul is all Kohanim, and if a case like that, it says that the women and the children answer amen to their blessing, but otherwise they say, so what if there aren't any women and children in the shul? They say the answer is ha'am shebasadot, the people that are in the fields are being blessed. And the people are in the fields, obviously, because they already had to go to work. And so it's amazing because we just found out that it's basically different from shofar and Megillah. You can be fulfilling the mitzvah of hearing the blessing, even if you are in the field, if that's what you must do, as opposed to if you had the option to be in shul and you weren't. So we'll stop here. If anybody has any